So welcome to today's Thursday at 3 leadership workshop on combating loneliness and social isolation. My name is Sarah Hyman. I'm the Assistant Director for Leadership in the Center for Student Involvement here at K-State. And we are just looking for ways to provide a lot of different information to students this semester. So we created our Thursdays at 3 session, which is what this is, to talk about a variety of leadership topics, student organization management topics, and just student involvement topics. And so today's kind of more of one of those involvement topics that we'll be covering. I also just want to mention that this session is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel afterwards as well. So just be aware of that. I have Anna and Lauren here today with us to talk about some of these topics together. So feel free to participate either via the chat or via unmuting yourself as well, however you would like to. And that way we can hear from you and kind of customize this to maybe some of the other things that you're interested in as well. So that's a little bit about who I am and what this session is today. So today we're going to talk to you about loneliness and social isolation. Why is this happening? Although I'm sure you have your ideas of why this is already happening. A little bit about recognizing the signs and maybe some of the situations that you might be in that might make you more susceptible to these feelings and experiences. Also just touch briefly on what the difference is between loneliness and the social isolation. And then we'll get into how to actually combat those feelings and those experiences as well. And we'll wrap up with some takeaways, hopefully for you today, so that this session is not just informative, but also impactful for you. So I want to start by just sharing a few before and after photos to get us in the mindset of why this might be happening, why you might be feeling lonely, why you might be experiencing isolation. So on the left here is an image from Disney World line. This is pre-COVID, pre-pandemic of the wait line to get into some rides at Disney World. And here is post-COVID, or what's currently happening there in terms of waiting in line to get on rides as well. So you can see probably a difference there in terms of being connected to individuals and being around others. Here's another example. Here is an interaction with a character at Disney World pre-COVID. And here we are post-COVID, wearing face masks, maintaining that social distancing as well, practicing proper health and safety practices. And then finally, here is a picture of people on a ride at Disney World. This is Splash Mountain, pre-COVID, no face masks. And then of course we have post-COVID wearing face masks, again, practicing social distancing here. So you can get an idea, I think, through these photos of why people might be feeling more lonely lately this past year as we've been in a global pandemic, and why they might be feeling more isolated as well. So this year, you might have been quarantined due to suspected exposure to the coronavirus. Maybe you're staying at home because you were a family member or high risk, or maybe you're just staying at home to help prevent the spread of the infection and trying to be responsible when it comes to participating in maintaining our health as a society. But this also means that you might be experiencing things like having your courses online or in a hybrid modality instead of maybe you were expecting or hoping to have your classes in person this semester. Maybe you are involved in student organizations, but you're noticing a decrease in the activity just because of some of the limitations that are in place right now. Maybe you're taking less frequent trips home to visit family or friends, again, because of that social distancing and maintaining and being aware of the health risks involved with traveling and just being exposed to different groups of people. So self-isolation and social distancing, we know, are of course good for your physical health and necessary right now, but we know that it also can feel like it's detrimental to your emotional well-being and your state of mind. So that's why we're doing this and talking about this today. So we want to talk about recognizing some of the signs of maybe why you're experiencing loneliness and isolation. So maybe you're in a situation that makes you more prone to these feelings. Maybe you live alone. Maybe you can't leave your home. Maybe you've suffered a recent loss. Maybe you're going through a major change. Maybe you're a caregiver for others. But you might also be noticing certain symptoms in yourself related to these things. So maybe you're noticing that you have more feelings of fear or anger, sadness, maybe numbness or frustration. Maybe you're noticing changes in your appetite, your energy, your desires, your interests. If you're having difficulty concentrating or making decisions or difficulty sleeping, maybe you're having nightmares, maybe you're experiencing other physical reactions such as headaches, body pains, stomach problems, skin rashes. Maybe you're noticing a worsening of any chronic health problems or worsening of mental health conditions. Or maybe you're noticing an increased use of tobacco or alcohol or other drugs. These are all signs and symptoms of stress. And there are lots of different kinds of stress. It's natural to feel stress and anxiety and grief and worry during the pandemic. And today we're going to focus on those feelings of being alone and disconnected and offer some strategies to hopefully address them. So we want to talk a little bit about the difference between loneliness and social isolation. So loneliness is a feeling of being alone, regardless of the amount of social contact. So this is subjective. It's up to the individual to assess if they feel lonely or not. Whereas social isolation is a lack of social connections. So this can be objective, right? You can count the number of social connections a person has. So these two are not mutually exclusive. Social isolation can lead to loneliness for some people, while others can feel lonely without being socially isolated. So let's talk about loneliness a little bit. Loneliness can occur when you don't have as much social interaction as you would like. So this can occur after major life changes, such as quarantining during the pandemic and a total shift in how we interact with one another around us. But loneliness is a function of a need for companionship and belonging. And if you're feeling lonely, it can kind of leave you questioning your value to others and your sense of belonging. If you're feeling lonely, this reflects the absence of connection, which is not necessarily the absence of people, right? That's why you can feel lonely in a crowd, because you can be surrounded by others, but not necessarily feel that connection to those people around you. Whereas conversely, if you do have a strong support network in place, even when you are isolated, you can still have a sense of connection and support from the people who you care about. So when we talk about social loneliness, this occurs when you don't feel you have a sense of belonging to a group, loneliness. This feeling occurs when you don't have a sense of belonging to a group beyond yourself. So you might feel loneliness even if you're in a romantic relationship with a partner that you really care about. If you don't have a wider circle of support, you may feel that you and your partner feel like you don't belong to a group, and you can still feel lonely, even if you have a few individuals who you do have true connections with and are connected to. And then social isolation describes the absence of social contact. So again, this is more of a state of being cut off from normal social networks. And this can be triggered by factors like a loss of mobility or unemployment or health issues. Isolation can involve staying at home for lengthy periods of time, which if you're quarantining, this may be happening, or having no access to services or community involvement, or little to no communication with friends, family, and acquaintances. So the two concepts are a little bit different, but they definitely can overlap and can be related to each other. So how do we combat these feelings of loneliness and isolation? So today we're going to walk with you through kind of 5 major steps, if you will, or tactics on how to do this, and go through a couple activities together as well. So first step is managing your stress. Keeping a positive attitude is important. And we actually have done a workshop on pursuing the positive and maintaining that sense of positivity and resilience. And so we do have resources available for positivity. And like I said, focusing on that. Managing your stress also looks like accepting that there are events that are beyond your control, learning effective time management, setting limits, making time for hobbies and interests, and seeking out social support from friends, peers, and parents. And so you're going to see, as we go through this today, a lot of overlap here between these items. Some things might sound repetitive, but it's because they pop up in different ways and serve you in different ways. So where time management can be an effective way of managing stress, as we're going to talk about here in a moment, it's also an effective way of helping you focus on your sense of purpose. So one of the items that we want to talk about in terms of managing your stress is to do a 1-minute stress reliever together. So what I want you to do is we're going to do a breathing activity as our 1-minute stress reliever. It's called the 4-7-8 breathing. So I'll explain it to you first. First thing we're going to do is exhale out, making a sound as we exhale to the count of 8. And then we're going to inhale quietly for a count of 4. And then we're going to hold our breath for a count of 7. And then we're going to repeat that all over again. So we're going to exhale loudly for 8, inhale quietly for 4, and then hold our breath for a count of 7. So I'll kind of lead this through this. So if you want to sit up in your chair, if you're seated, and kind of relax your shoulders, we're going to inhale quickly, and then we're going to start our exhale. And again, making a sound when you exhale. So inhale, and then now exhale loudly to the count of 8. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now inhale quietly through your nose to the count of 4. And now hold your breath to the count of 7. Now exhale loudly again to the count of 8. Inhale to the count of 4 quietly. And now hold your breath to the count of 7. And one more time, exhale to the count of 8. Inhale quietly for 4. And hold your breath for 7. And exhale. So hopefully you feel a little bit more relaxed. That is just one example of a 1-minute stress reliever that you can incorporate to your day to help you manage stress. Another recommendation for practicing managing your stress is to find ways to place reminders in your life to do these little 1-minute stress relievers. So some of the examples that were put out there are tie a string to the zipper on your backpack. So every time you see that string, you're reminded to relax your shoulders, or do a breathing exercise, or just take a deep breath, meditate for a minute if you'd like to. Or you can also set reminders on your phone, or put a sticker on your laptop, or a Post-it note off to the side of your screen that reminds you to relax. And so finding ways to help yourself remember to do this is important. So next we want to talk about focusing on your sense of purpose. So our first key to doing this can be keeping a schedule. So loneliness, we know, can feel like it will never end, but keeping a schedule can make your days feel more normal, make them feel as normal as possible as you go through them. So we recommend starting each day with a plan of a few things you can do, or keep a daily diary of how you're feeling and what you're doing. Keep a symptom log if you're feeling ill. All of these tracking systems will help you feel like you're being proactive about your situation. Also, planning for the future can help you focus on your sense of purpose. So while it might feel like I said, loneliness might last forever, there will come a time that you'll be back to your usual routines. And one way to feel less alone right now is to make plans for the future or do things that will help you focus on the future. So some ways to do this include making a future list of everything you want to do. Also, you can order online and plant some spring bulbs if you're into gardening or plants and watching them grow over time. Plan a fun event for when you're out of isolation, or make a bucket list of all the things you want to do in your lifetime, or make a goals list for some area of your life as well. So now we want to do an activity where we're going to talk about what are 3 things you're going to do this weekend. So we're going to practice that planning for the future. So if you want to, in the chat or unmute yourself, I'll give you about 20-30 seconds here to think about it. But make a short list. What are 3 things that you want to do and want to accomplish this weekend? So take some time, and I'll ask you here in a couple seconds to share what your plans for the weekend are. All right, and Lauren said she is going to study, she's going to go to church, and she is going to make a great meal. So thank you, Lauren, for sharing that. Anna, what about you? Are you going to do anything this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend I have to go get my car's oil changed. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And then I'm gonna make dinner for my sister and then probably go to the gym. So
Oh, those all sound fun. Awesome. Very cool. Some other activity and ideas, if you haven't already thought about them. The Union Programming Council here at K-State usually does film screenings on the weekend. And so this weekend, they're actually showing Bill and Ted Face the Music, but they usually do them Friday and Saturday nights. So every weekend, you can check their schedule to see if there's a movie showing that you'd like to go to. Also, the city of Manhattan does a farmers market every weekend on Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that's hosted over by the mall here in Manhattan. So that's another activity. And I know at least one of you said this, maybe both of you did actually, that you're going to cook a meal. So you could always try a new recipe or cook one of your favorite dishes. That's another great thing to do over the weekend. So all of that sounds good. Thank you both for sharing. Okay, our next tactic for combating loneliness and isolation is to maintain your sense of belonging. So the first thing you can do to help achieve that is to do something meaningful for yourself. So all of us want to feel like we belong and that our life has importance, which is why it's important to incorporate meaningful activities into your day to make your day feel important. So doing something meaningful each day, even if it's only for a short period of time, will give you a sense of purpose and identity. Only you know what will create meaning in your life. So it's going to be unique to you. There's no one who can tell you what's going to be meaningful, but we can give you some ideas to get you started. So maybe you could sign up for an online course or do a little bit of work on a project each day. Create a family tree using genealogy websites. Sign up to be a volunteer with Kansas Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Those are all different ways that you can find maybe that sense of meaning and sense of belonging for yourself. Another way you can do this is to create something. So if you're finding it hard to express what you're feeling, channeling your feelings into creating something can be really cathartic. When you create something, you enter into this kind of creative magic zone, which in a way can be its own form of meditation. So there's a lot of different ways to be creative. You can take on writing projects, do different art projects, home projects as well. A couple things we wanted to point out to you here is, again, the city of Manhattan Parks and Rec has a virtual recreation center. So you can explore a whole list of different things, including craft ideas. They have virtual zoo tours and a lot of other fun, exciting ideas and things you can do on there. Also, again, K-State's Union Programming Council, UPC, has a cupcake decorating event coming up It was originally scheduled for today, but they have had to postpone it actually. So it will be happening next week now on February 24th. So it's not too late to participate in the cupcake decorating event here on campus either. All right. So one of the activities that was listed on Manhattan Parks and Rec's website that I just mentioned to you was spend some time doodling to music. That's an easy way to kind of start to feel creative. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about the next 3 minutes here. And what I would like you to do is grab a piece of paper and a pen if you can, or if you're on a computer, maybe open like Microsoft Paint or some kind of scratch pad on there. Or if you're on your phone, I know you can easily take a Snapchat and start writing on your Snapchat and be creative. But what we want to do is just take some time to doodle. Like I said, take about 3 minutes. And while we're doing that, I'll play this music. And as you can see, someone else has had a lot of fun doodling on here as well. This is Line Rider. And the song is called Mountain King. And so once you've finished your doodle, if the video is still playing, you can see how this person has spent their time doodling to this song. Okay. Make sure I paused it. So hopefully that was a fun little activity, again, to be creative, also in its own way. Like I said, kind of a way to meditate. I don't know if any of you were able to take some time to do some doodles. I'll show you mine. Since the song was called Mountain King, I drew a little mountain scene with a campfire, and a tent, and a person out here wearing a beanie. So that's my doodle. But this is something that, again, you can do just randomly throughout the day. If you find yourself feeling anxious, feeling stressed, just put on a favorite song and start doodling. This kind of ties into our very next step, which is practicing self-care. So it's easy to focus on how to manage your mental health and loneliness directly during a crisis. sometimes we forget that physical and mental health are really actually delicately intertwined. So the first thing we want to remind you to do is to take care of your body. You can do this with exercise, of course. Not getting enough exercise can actually have detrimental effects on your ability to cope mentally. So exercise can lessen fatigue and lessen anxiety or sadness. So some ideas we have for you for this is to go outside, go for walks around your neighborhood, or go for a run in the park. Manhattan and the surrounding area have a lot of great trails if you're into hiking, nature trails. Both, again, there's linear trail that goes through Manhattan, and there's a lot of parks that have their own trails around it as well. So there's also some great spots to go hammock after your hike if you want to, so you can check that out. Another thing, if you don't want to go out, you can still stay in and be active. So K-State's Rec Services actually has a YouTube channel that is full of at-home workouts that you can do. So I put a little image here on the screen for you of some of the videos they have uploaded there. And if you don't want to work out at home by following a YouTube channel and you still want some interaction, you can actually sign up for virtual personal training through the Rec as well. So check that out on Rec Services website. You can also take care of your body by treating yourself to healthy snacks. Your nutrition is important, and getting enough sleep. And make sure it's a priority in your routine to get enough sleep, and make sure it's quality sleep too. I know that's not something that you're able to come across very often as college students, but that's why making sleep a priority is so important. Again, not only in your physical health, but also in your mental health as well. Another thing you can do to practice self-care is to find balance. And one of the ways you can do that is by learning and practicing saying no to others. So rather than always being a yes person and taking on things that you really might not have the capacity to do, practice saying no, just to make sure that the things you are doing in your life are manageable for you and healthy for you. Find ways to take breaks. Distraction can help you avoid, ruminating about everything that's wrong. In this way, taking breaks can actually help you keep your mood level. So you can take a break by listening to podcasts or watching TED Talks on subjects that interest you, maybe playing an instrument such as the piano or guitar, taking a virtual tour of museums and zoos. Again, the Manhattan Parks and Rec website has different links. The San Diego Zoo, for example, has a live stream. You can also take breaks by playing a game of Sudoku or crossword puzzles or solitaire or online chess as well. But speaking of taking breaks and playing instruments, if you do not have a guitar or a piano readily available, I don't know if you've ever heard of kalimba. It is a small musical instrument that you can actually get on Amazon. I just checked. You can get one for about $20 or $30. So I wanted to play this video of this is an easy stress reliever, and a way you can take a break is by getting a kalimba and playing this as well. Again, just an easy way to practice self-care. So we're talking about finding balance. We just talked about taking breaks. And another thing you can do that's on the other side of, again, having that balance is making sure you're staying informed. So studies actually show that people who have up-to-date health information and advice on precautionary measures actually have better psychological functioning and resilience. So while you don't want to, feed your anxiety through constant updates, keeping up to date on the latest advice may actually help protect your mental health and as a result, reduce the impact of loneliness on you. So we recommend limiting your media consumption to an extent. So maybe just set a goal for yourself of checking the news once or twice a day, or if you are noticing that social media is really overwhelming to you, limiting your time that you spend on there if everybody's talking about the pandemic or things like that. We also just want to encourage you to seek sites that give factual information on what you can do to stay healthy, such as the CDC or the World Health Organization as well. Next, we want to talk about utilizing sources of comfort as a way of practicing self-care. So this is just finding ways to give yourself comfort even if you are feeling lonely, and this can also improve your mental health. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat putting in there, what are some of your go-to comfort strategies? I'd love to hear kind of how you take a break, or what's something that provides you comfort whenever you do that activity. Some ideas that we have in terms of comfort strategies include making time to unwind, giving yourself a foot massage or using a foot spa, taking a bath. Maybe if you have a pet, focusing on your pet, playing with them. Lauren, you said baths. I totally agree. It's crazy how relaxing they actually are, and how I don't do that often enough. Cooking healthy comfort food can also be an easy one. Maybe watching your favorite TV shows or reading a favorite book. I'd be interested to hear if any of you have a favorite book or favorite TV show. Another way to practice comfort is to have a cup of herbal tea or light a scented candle. Make time to relax by reading or listening to music, exploring a new hobby. And overall, we just want you to remember that you're not alone. Talk to someone you trust if you or a friend feels bad, and take breaks to relax and unwind. You can do that maybe by doing yoga or listening to music or gardening or trying new hobbies. Anna, thank you for sharing. I see you love hiking and camping and hammocking and reading outside. Those are all really great comforts as well. The last thing we want to talk about when it comes to practicing self-care is also practicing self-compassion. So if you find yourself saying things like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or pushing away difficult emotions, we want to encourage you to find ways to accept that feelings can come and go. Feelings will change. And so if you can accept that and wrap your mind around that, then that can help take away that power that your feelings have over you and kind of ease your unhappiness. If this is a struggle, try practicing guided meditation, such as following along with a YouTube session. And make sure you're also showing compassion by offering to help others who feel lonely. Even if you are also struggling yourself, that can make you feel less lonely by having that connection with somebody else. So that could look like making a phone call to a friend, or sending a text, sending a letter, commenting on someone's social media post, but just overall being supportive and offering words of encouragement can not only help the other person out, but help you as well. All right. And then our last kind of big step here, a big strategy at combating loneliness and isolation, is connecting with friends and family and your community. So let's talk about how you can connect with others here at K-State. The first thing I want to mention to you is Org Central, which is what you see on your screen here, the Org Central website. This is our management platform for all of the student organizations at K-State. So we actually have 483 student organizations currently registered, and they cover a wide variety of interests. We have academic organizations, academic competition teams, community service organizations, fraternities and sororities, honoraries, multicultural organizations, religious organizations, special interest groups, sports clubs, and then anything else that I didn't mention falls into general university as well. So finding a group that matches your interests can be really helpful, and you can browse those there on our Org Central site. By keyword, if you know exactly what you're looking for, like if you want to find more about people who are interested in rock climbing, you can search for that. Or if you just want to kind of explore, you can browse every organization that's listed, or you can even break it down by those categories I mentioned. So you can type in that search bar you see there on your screen, or up at the top, you see that tab that says organizations. When you click that, that's how you can filter through more of the categories and things like that. Another way you can stay connected or connect with others here at K-State is to attend events. Again, I mentioned Union Programming Council hosts several events throughout the semester. McCain Auditorium has been doing virtual events as well. And I wanted to point out that UPC actually does have a Name That Tune game show happening on Tuesday, February 23rd. So that's an upcoming event that you can get involved in. Student Governing Association is another organization here at K-State that's a great way to get involved. They are active throughout the year, and they have 3 different branches. They have the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. And so even if you know nothing about SGA, if you're at all interested, they do have an intern program that kind of walks you through those 3 different branches of SGA and what your involvement can look like. So Student Governing Association is another great way to get involved here at K-State. Also, you can get involved in intramurals through Rec Services. They actually still have some sign up left yet for this semester. They still have a free throw contest you can sign up for, and they have a couple different trivia events for history and movie coming up. So that's another great place to look to get involved here at K-State and connect with others. Also, we want to talk to you about getting more connected just with the Manhattan community. I know we've mentioned Manhattan Parks and Rec several times now throughout this session, but we also want to point out that they host different events, activities, classes, and sports as well. They have arts and crafts events, they have dance classes, and they have almost their own intramural team and leagues for basketball, volleyball, pickleball, softball, kickball, soccer, and dodgeball. So a lot of ways you can get involved through Manhattan Parks and Rec. Another way that you might stay connected with the Manhattan community is via Facebook. So there are a lot of different events and groups that are posted on there. I know the Manhattan Junction City Fort Riley buy sell trade page. You can find, of course, people buying and selling and trading things, but they also tend to post events. And it's a great way to kind of keep in touch with what's going on in the community there as well. And of course, you can also volunteer in Manhattan, and that's another great way to be connected to the community. And then finally, when it comes to being and staying connected with family and friends, of course, there's a lot of different things you can do. There's the more traditional methods, right, of picking up the phone and making a call, FaceTime with your family, or get on Zoom together. Writing a letter is nice. I think that's something that people don't really do as much anymore. And so when you receive something in the mail, especially a handwritten letter, that can be really meaningful and special. You can send a card, whether that's for an upcoming holiday or just thinking of you moment. My friends and I, we like to send each other surprise Amazon packages. Of course, it's not very much, less than $10 item, but just something to let them know we're thinking of them and kind of share our interests together as well. You can also engage with on social media. That's another way to stay connected to family and friends. Go on there, like a post they share, comment on a picture, or just pick up your phone and text them too. It doesn't have to be a phone call if that's not your thing, but just again, trying to maintain those connections. And then of course, there is all of the online ways that you can stay connected. So just a few that we wanted to point out to you. There is Teleparty, which is formerly Netflix Party, where you can watch TV with your friends online. Disney Plus has the same thing called Group Watch, where you can watch Disney movies, Star Wars movies, Marvel movies all together with your friends and family, even if you're remote. There's Steam, which lets you play games online with friends and people across the world. You can actually create collaborative playlists on Spotify so everybody can share their music together. So that's fun to kind of stay in touch with what your friends or family might be listening to at the moment. There is Jackbox Games, which is party group games that you can play either in person and people play on their cell phones, but you're all sitting in the same room. But you can also do it on a Zoom call or on a Twitch stream, which leads me to tell you about Twitch. Twitch is a video streaming platform where you can watch people play games. And there's Discord, which is an app that you can have on your phone or on your computer that lets you chat via text or voice or video in real time. So Discord's a nice way to stay in touch with people. And besides that, there's also a lot of virtual performances out there, virtual Broadway shows, the McCain series I mentioned earlier. So you can find something like that going on and watch it virtually with your friends and family too. So now what I want to do is just take a minute and show you Steam really quickly. I know that, Lauren, that you might not be able to play along right now, but that is okay. I'll just briefly show you what it looks like. So let me switch over here, actually. Okay, so Steam, like I said, is software that lets you play games online. So you can buy games, you can play them by yourself, you can play them with friends. I have on here a couple different Jackbox party packs, which Jackbox games is something I mentioned earlier. So if we take a look at one, we can click into it here. And you can see each party pack kind of has its own variety of games. So I'll show you some that are listed on here. So this is Party Pack 7. This is their newest one. And it looks like 5 different games available through it. They have Quiplash here, which is where you basically write in your own phrases, responses to questions, and then you and your friends get a vote on whose is better. And it's kind of a survival of the fittest type game. There is this Devils in the Details game, that I actually clicked on. So we'll see it a little more closely here in a second. But if I remember right, this game essentially assigns different roles to different players, and you're all trying to complete tasks together. And again, multiple people can play on this together. There's Champed Up, which I keep clicking on these, but that's okay. Let me go back here. Here we go. You, again, get to create weird characters and weird titles and vote on them against each other. There is Talking Points, where you give a speech about pictures you haven't seen before. So one person selects the pictures or the slides that are going to be in the presentation, and then the other person has to actually give the presentation to the group without knowing what the next slide is about to have on it. And then there's Blather Around here, which this is a really fun game. If we had more time, this is what I would have us play today. But it's basically a guessing game where one person is trying to get the rest of the group to guess a certain clue, but they're limited to what they can say. So you got to pick out the clues based on these limited options providing. And then you can see other people start guessing. And then you can say, yes, you're warm, or no, you're cold, and help your audience try to guess the correct answer. So this is just one example of something that you can play with your friends, again, as a way to stay connected, even if they go to different schools or just live in a different side of campus and you're not able to get together with them in person. Playing games like this can be really fun as well. All right, let me go back to this. So that's a little bit about Steam as the platform and Jackbox Games as an option of something that you can do together. Oh, Lauren, you love Quiplash. Awesome. Me too, actually. They're really fun games. So I'm glad you're both aware of those. So now we just want to take some time to kind of review everything we went over, which we went over a lot of information today. And the thing I'll say about that is I know that part of the issue I think that people are experiencing right now is an overwhelming amount of information shared with them. So we're going to kind of do a little activity to help make this seem more manageable. So to start though, we're just going to review the things we've gone over today. So steps for combating loneliness. Number one, working on managing your stress. So we said, keep a positive attitude, accept that there are events that you can't control, learn effective time management. And for this one, this is when we practice that 1-minute stress reliever, that breathing exercise together. Another step we talked about is focusing on your sense of purpose. So keeping a schedule, planning for the future. And to practice this, we talked about 3 things that we're going to accomplish this weekend, which I think it sounded like everybody's involves cooking. So I'm excited for you all to cook up some great meals together this weekend. Our third tactic is maintaining your sense of belonging. So for this, we said do something meaningful or create something. To practice this, we did the 3-minute doodling to music to get our creative juices flowing. Then we talked about practicing self-care. We said make sure you're taking care of your body. You can do that by exercising. We mentioned that K-State Rec Services has online workouts on their YouTube channel that you can do. We talked about finding balance. And you can do that by taking a break. And we played that video of somebody playing the kalimba. So playing an instrument is an easy way to take a break. We also talked about utilizing sources of comfort. And I asked you all to share some of your go-to comfort strategies, whether that's going on a hike or taking a bath or reading outside. Those were all great examples that you all shared. Practicing self-compassion also went along with that. And then we just talked about connecting with friends and family in your community. So we talked about how you can be connected here at K-State, whether that's browsing student organizations on Org Central and finding one to join, or getting involved with our Student Governing Association, or attending UPC events with your friends, or just meeting other people at those UPC events. We also talked about how you can get connected to the Manhattan community, whether that's through the Parks and Rec or through Facebook groups or volunteering, and how you can stay connected with your friends and family by writing letters, sending cards, calling them, or playing online games together, which we just looked at the Jackbox party games for that. So those are just some examples of all of these different strategies that we have. But what I want to ask you all to do now is take a minute, and I'm going to ask you to pick 3 tactics that you want to try in terms of helping yourself combat loneliness. So what are 3 things? Maybe you see them on your screen, or maybe it's something more specific that we kind of talked about but aren't listed here. So pick 3 tactics. And then what I'm going to ask you to do in the next minute is, after you've identified your 3, put them in order. I want you to prioritize them. What is the one you're going to focus on first? So 1, 2, and 3. Pick 3 tactics. Like I said, I'll give you about another 45 seconds or so to think on this. Identify your top 3 and put them in order for me. And then when you have them, if you feel comfortable sharing and you want to put them in the chat, that would be great. If not, that's okay too. So Lauren, she shared, and I assume these are in order, Lauren, of priority. You want to focus on self-care, FaceTiming family, and creating your bucket list. I think those are 3 great things to focus on. And while Anna might be thinking about hers, or anybody else who's watching this recording, if you're working on yours, feel free to pause the video as well. Now that you've identified your top 3 and you've put them in order, you know which one you want to start with. So for that one that's in your number 1 spot, and I'll go ahead and share. Anna just shared, she said, number 1 is having a movie or game night with family and friends. Number 2 is at-home workouts and gym time. And number 3 is guided meditation on YouTube. Those are another great 3 tactics. And so both of you, and again, those of you watching along on this recording, if you'll look at the one in your number 1 spot, write out how you're going to accomplish that. So I want you to be as specific as possible. So I want you to say what you're going to do and also when you're going to do it. Either give yourself a deadline or identify when you're actually going to do that activity. So that way, when you leave here today, you know what your next step will be for combating loneliness. So once you have that, again, if you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to hear it, but be specific about that one in your number 1 spot. How are you going to accomplish that first thing?
I can talk a little bit about my number one, since it's something that I kind of have implemented now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So every Sunday, I have a sister who's a freshman here, and I'm a senior, and so I'm trying to help her kind of combat some of these things we've been talking about today. And I know on Sundays, the residence halls, like food facilities, don't serve dinner Sunday nights, and so I try and have her over and make something simple or whatever. And she usually brings her roommate, and so I always try and have some kind of activity for everyone to do, whether it's like a board game or watch a movie. Sometimes we play Jackbox games. I think that's really helped, like all of us in our little group, because it gives something to look forward to every week. It's like fun, social, and so I'm gonna try and keep that up this semester as well. But.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. Thanks for sharing. And Lauren here, she also shared that her number one was self-care. And she said that she has a list of things that she does every day that helps her with self-care, which includes working out, drinking water, washing her face, etc. I think that's great, Lauren. I think that touches actually on a lot of different topics too, of having a schedule, having things planned out, and that self-care piece, of course, as well. So thank you for sharing that too. So that's just also, again, an example of how you can kind of take all of this overwhelming information and don't feel like you have to try to accomplish everything at once, but just start small. What are 3 things you want to do? Outline how you're going to do them. And that's just your first goal. And maybe when you reach those goals, then you can add in something else if you'd like to. But I think if you start incorporating some of these things into your lives, into your schedule, you'll find that you're more successful at maybe, again, combating those feelings of loneliness or those situations of isolation. So we just want to say that everyone here who works in the Center for Student Involvement, we're here to help you anytime you need us. So this is just who our staff is. Kelly is our executive director. I'm Sarah. I work with Ashley, Amy, and Anna here. And we would all be happy to talk with you about this anytime if you want to reach out to us and find more information about getting involved, or just, again, more of this information on these steps for combating loneliness. We'd be happy to talk with you about that. I also want to mention that if you are feeling like these tactics aren't working for you, or if the situation feels more serious, if you are having any thoughts of self-harm or suicidal ideations, definitely we want you to get help as soon as possible. Here is some emergency contact information. Always call 911 if you suspect a situation is potentially life-threatening. I also want to share with you the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-8255, and you can call that anytime, again, if you're having thoughts about self-harm. There's also mental health and local treatment services, which you can find out more about by calling 1-877-726-4727. And of course, we have on-campus resources of Lafine Health Center and K-State's counseling services as well that you can reach out to. And I will say Counseling Services website even has number that you can text for help as well if you are needing that. So know that these services are also out there if your situation feels more serious and beyond just feelings of loneliness as well. With that, are there any questions I can answer for anyone, or go talk about anything more in depth that we covered here today? Okay, well, the last thing I want to do is just share some upcoming event information with you. So like I said at the beginning of this session is part of our Thursdays at 3 workshop series. Next week, we're going to talk about what's in your leadership experience, where we're going to talk about how the things you've done in college, you can actually put on your resume and talk about in job interviews as well. And then 2 weeks from now, on March 4th, we're going to talk about how can we make a real difference. And what that's going to be about is more like civic engagement, civic action type things of when you identify a problem, when you know there's something wrong, but you don't know how to fix it, how can you take those feelings of frustration about problems that might be going on either locally in your community or nationally in our country, in our society, and how you can take those feelings and turn them into action. So that will be our workshop topic in 2 weeks. I will mention also, yes, Lauren, I will be emailing out information, kind of a summary of this presentation. So thank you for sharing your email. And again, for those of you who might be watching this recording on our YouTube channel, you can contact me. I'll put my contact information up here in a second, and to request any of those resources as well. And they will also be made available on our resources for student organizations page on Org Central as well. Other upcoming events, really quick, I want to mention our first Wisdom Wednesday will be next week at 12:30 p.m. on February 24th. And that's going to be with Dr. Thomas Lane, our Vice President of Student Life of Dean of Students. And that's just going to be an informal session for a chance to get to know students, to get to know Dr. Lane, and also learn about his leadership journey and his involvement experiences and how it's kind of led him to where he is in his position today. So that will be a really fun chat with Dr. Lane over the lunch hour next Wednesday. And then I mentioned we will be putting this on our YouTube channel. We already have a couple presentations up on there or coming on there soon, including Jumpstarting Your Organization and Diversity and Inclusion in Student Organizations. And we have a student org policy review we will be looking for student feedback on coming up this month as well. With that, I just want to thank you both, Lauren and Anna, for being here today, and all of you who might be watching this recording at a later date. Here is some information about the Center for Student Involvement. We'd love for you to follow us on social media just to stay in touch with different workshops and events we have, but also we want to know what's going on with you and your organization if you're involved in one as well. My email address is on the screen, as well as our office's email address, and we're located here in the K-State Student Union if you ever just want to swing by sometime. With that, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. I'll hang out if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day.